The Senate will come to order. Senator Wickland.
Mr. President, the Senate is under call.
The Senate is now under call. Senator Murphy.
Mr. President, I move that further proceedings under the roll call be dispensed with and that the Sergeant at Arms be instructed to bring in the absent member.
On that motion, all in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. The motion prevails. Members, we will start at the second order of business. We'll remain under motion and resolution, so we'll revert to the third order of business. Messages from the House, and the Secretary will read the message.
Mr. President, I have the honor to announce the passage by the House of the following Senate file herewith returned. Senate File Number 2884, a bill for an act relating to retirement, Minnesota State Retirement System, making administrative changes. Signed, Patrick Duffy Murphy, Chief Clerk, House of Representatives.
No action is required. We'll now go to the eighth order of business, introduction and first reading of Senate bills. The bills listed on today's introduction addendum are given their first reading and referred as indicated. Ninth order of business, motions and resolutions. There is one author motion to adopt. All in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. The motion prevails. Senate Resolution number 53 will be referred to the Committee on Rules and Administration. Remaining under the orders of business of motions and resolutions, we'll revert again to the third order of business, messages from the House. The Secretary will read the message.
Mr. President, I have the honor to announce that the House has adopted the recommendation and report of the Conference Committee on House File Number 2115 and repassed said bill in accordance with the report of the committee, so adopted. House File Number 2115, a bill for an act relating to human services, modifying policy provisions relating to aging and disability services, the Department of Health, etc. House File Number 2115 is herewith transmitted to the Senate. Signed, Patrick Duffy Murphy, Chief Clerk, House of Representatives.
I'm calling on Senator Hoffman for a motion.
Mr. President, I move that the foregoing recommendations in Conference Committee report on the other body, House File Number 2115, be now adopted, and that the bill be repassed as amended by the Conference Committee.
To that motion, Senator Hoffman. Explain what was done in the Conference Committee. That's what I'm asking.
Thank you, Mr. President. House File 2115 is a bipartisan Conference Committee report which all conferees voted for, and we focused on a number of key provisions: program integrity, efficiency and modernization, disability determinations. It also expands SUD treatment, and it's flexible. It's a good bill, Mr. President. I hope everybody votes green.
Any other discussion on the adoption? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion for adoption of the committee report, say aye. All those opposed say no. The motion prevails. The Secretary will give the bill its third reading.
House File Number 2115, a bill for an act relating to human services, modifying policy provisions relating to aging and disability services, the Department of Health, Direct Care and Treatment, Behavioral Health, and the Department of Human Services Office of Inspector General.
Any other discussion? Oh, third reading, I should say. Any other discussion? Senator Rasmussen.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I stand with gratitude for the work that the Human Services Policy Conference Committee did. Mr. President, a lot of this work is boring, non-controversial, but important to the Minnesotans who rely on our human services system here in the state. And I just want to talk about a couple highlights in the bill that I'm glad to see. Number one, I think this bill helps protect taxpayer dollars by penalizing illegal kickbacks in the Child Care Assistance Program. We also see aligning enforcement with our state theft laws and prohibiting duplicative billing practices for DHS programs. I think we also struck a good balance on regulations over long-term care providers to make sure that we're prioritizing and ensuring resident safety while also taking into account the operational realities of our providers and not putting overly burdensome regulations on them. We've also done some cutting of red tape by streamlining paperwork and administrative requirements for mental health providers and substance use disorder providers. And lastly, Mr. President, one of the provisions that came in over the House bill, which would have made changes to the Minnesota Sex Offender Program and the process for discharge, we were able to stop in the conference committee, which I think will be good for victims and for public safety here in the state of Minnesota. Mr. President, one concern that has been raised on this bill is that we are, again, kicking out the 48-hour rule. And for those who don't know, the 48-hour rule was put in place years ago and ensured that if we had an individual who needed a state-level type of facility, a state hospital as an example, that they had to receive a placement within 48 hours. And what we've seen, Mr. President, is that we have people like constituents I have waiting 100 days to get into a direct care and treatment facility. And so one concern that's been raised is that while this policy bill extends out that deadline, we have to wait for the finance bill to see if there's going to be funding. And so, Mr. President, I was wondering if Senator Hoffman would yield for a question.
Senator Hoffman, will you yield? He will yield. Senator Rasmussen.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Senator Hoffman, and I appreciate all of our conversations on this topic. And I just, for the sheriffs and the county attorneys that are concerned about the extension of this 48-hour rule provision and are waiting for increased capacity of direct care and treatment, I just wondered if you could address their concerns and what we might see later on in a finance bill.
Senator Hoffman, we usually don't do this, but to that question, if you'll answer that, that'd be great. Because the bill, the final passage for the policy bill is what is before us. Senator Hoffman.
Thank you, Mr. President. And to the good senator from Fergus Falls, I would say this. If you look at the finance bill, the Miller building, the capacity of the Miller building was talked about in there, as well as there's a bonding provision for the Miller building, which gets that 51-bed piece that was all contingent upon the work on this. Because what we heard, and to that point, good Senator Rasmussen, was that the folks said we need some more capacity building, and this is one way to do it. Oh, by the way, it's in that town on the river, the Rum River, that some senator from Anoka, it's like in his backyard. So with that, that answers that question.
Senator Rasmussen.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Senator Hoffman. And I think that's really important. And the Senate did have a strong position in our finance bill on making sure that there's increased capacity for direct care and treatment so we don't have Minnesotans who need mental health services waiting for it 100 days in a jail. And I think that's a really important priority that we need to keep into mind as the conversation on the Human Services Finance Bill continues. But, Mr. President, I think there's a lot of good work that's gone into this bill, reasonable compromises, and I'm proud of the conference committee report, and that's why I signed the report before you today.
Any other discussion before we go to the author so that we can vote? Senator Dibble.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I also rise in support of this bill and with gratitude to Senator Hoffman, as well as the conferees, and as well as your trusty team right over your shoulder there, Senator Hoffman, who worked very, very hard with me and the advocates with whom I was working to offer some provisions that took care of seniors in our long-term care facilities. We had a number of hearings through the process, and throughout that we were asked to enter into a conversation and negotiation in good faith with industry representatives. I can't say that those conversations were necessarily in good faith on the part of those other partners, but we did work very hard and tried to come up with some good solutions and some good compromises. We receded unilaterally, I'll say, from a number of provisions, but kept a number of provisions alive into conference. And Senator Hoffman, thank you for fighting for those provisions, as well as Senator McQuaid and others. And specifically, I'm referring to the provisions that provide for some parity, some parallel consideration for those who are in assisted living facilities, similar to those as is currently true for those in nursing homes, not being required as a condition for admission or as a condition to require that they continue to receive care in assisted living, that they be bound to binding arbitration. Simply unfair and a misbalance of power, and we're going to reset and level the playing field for that. So that's a very, very important step forward for those who receive their essential long-term health care and assisted living. Likewise, some additional protections for those who are in hospice, adding to their Bill of Rights, their right to expect some of the kinds of medication that they need, and then some provisions for understanding the role of registered nurses in administering care, monitoring medication, and understanding the appropriate definition, again, to make those circumstances in assisted living parallel and consistent with those who are living in nursing homes. We licensed assisted living as a recognition that that is an essential form of long-term care, and it is important that it's properly regulated, and we provide for the dignity, the care, the support of those who are living in those settings, as we do for nursing homes, skilled nursing, that enjoy the benefit of a lot of federal regulations that they don't in assisted living. So thank you, Senator Hoffman, and there's about another 10 or so provisions that we dropped and stepped back from, and we'll continue those conversations throughout the coming year, and we'll be back to have more conversation in the coming session. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Abler.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. It's a good bill. We should pass it. I just want to call attention to Article 6, which no one would think was very interesting. It's a recodification. And if you want to doze off into the evenings, get this section and read it, Article 6. But I just wanted to commend the reviser and our council staff, who are amazing with how they spend the time and the detail to take our whole melange, is that a word, of these different sections that get added on over time and simplify them. And I just to mention, just in brief, that it's we can really be proud of them. And so if you see one of those advisors or one of our council staff, thank them. They really are heroes. Thank you.
Any other discussion before we go to the author before final passage? Senator Hoffman.
Thank you, Mr. President. It does take a lot of people to do the work, and I want to thank Senator Omar Fateh, Senator Jordan Rasmussen, Senator Jim Abler, Senator Glenn Gruenhagen. My mom is watching, by the way, Glenn, so you better wave at her. Senator Aaron May Quaid, Senator Zainab Mohammed, Senator Paul Utke, Senator Melissa Wickland, David Zacher, Committee Administrator Cassie Soar, our Legislative Assistant Chris Meyer, Leon Monahan, Kyle Raymond, Emily Spatera, Bryce Hinkst, Chloe Aday, Olivia Anderson, and Rowan Chafee. Also, Elise Bailey, Christy Grom, and Carrie Briones for our help to get this together. Members, thank you for your support on this. It's a good bill. Vote green.
The Secretary would take the roll on final passage of the House file as amended by the Conference Committee. Senate voting for those voting pursuant to Rule 40.7.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Herr votes aye.
Senator Herr votes aye.
Senator Klein votes aye.
Senator Klein votes aye.
Senator Port votes aye.
Senator Port votes aye.
Senator McEwen votes aye.
Senator McEwen votes aye.
And Senator Marty votes aye.
And Senator Marty votes aye. Senator Jasinski for those voting pursuant to Rule 40.7.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Coleman votes aye.
Senator Coleman votes aye.
Senator Housley votes aye.
Senator Housley votes aye. Senator Bowden.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Mohammed votes aye.
Senator Mohammed votes aye. All senators having voted who desires to vote, the secretary will close the roll. There being 55 ayes and 8 nays, the bill is passed and its title agreed to. Senator Rarick.
Thank you, Mr. President. Point of parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, we were in recess for quite a while today, and I heard at a press conference that the Senate had no business that it could take up. We were waiting for the House. And I'm just wondering, Mr. President, on Friday evening, the House passed House File 2433, which is companion to Senate File 2255, which is 40% of Minnesota's budget, the Education Finance Omnibus Bill. And Mr. President, I don't recall hearing it, and I believe that it is here within the Senate's jurisdiction to take up. And Mr. President, I'm just wondering if you can verify that Senate File 2255, House File 2433 are available for the Senate to take up and discuss and pass.
Give us a minute. We're checking on the status. It is on general orders. Senator Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. President. We are anticipating the arrival of the State and Local Government and Elections Omnibus Bill, but it is not quite here. And so, Mr. President, I'm going to move a recess to the call of the President.
On that motion, all in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. The motion prevails. The Senate is in recess. Members remaining under motions and resolutions. Members, I call the Senate to order. Now, remaining under motions and resolutions, Senator Xiong.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the foregoing recommendations and conference committee report on Senate File 3045 be now adopted and that the bill be repassed as amended by the conference committee.
Senator Xiong, to that motion. You have to explain the motion as to what happened in conference committee. Those things were adopted, those things that dropped off, just limited around those things, not repeating what was already passed.
Thank you, Mr. President. We had a conference committee report on Senate File 3045. We adopted the appropriations spreadsheets for the state government appropriations, state government policy, and portions of funding for the local government policy, and then we also incorporated the elections appropriation and elections policy.
Any questions on Senator Xiong's motion to adopt? Any questions on Senator Xiong's motion to adopt? To that motion, all in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. The motion prevails. The Secretary will give Senate File 3045 its third reading.
Senate File Number 3045, a bill for an act relating to state government operations, establishing a biennial budget, appropriating money for the legislature, certain constitutional offices, and state agencies.
Third reading. Any other discussion? Any other discussion? Senator Xiong.
Thank you, Mr. President. As much as I would like to be as quick as possible, I just want to thank you all for the work that went into State and Local Government Committee this year, along with our colleagues in the other body. As I said before, I was elevated to this position under the sad circumstances of our dear Senator Carrie Dietrich's passing. I hope that this work reflects her legacy on building bridges in this legislature. I would like to thank all the conferees and everybody that had worked with us on this on both sides of the aisle. I urge your support in this good bipartisan bill, and please vote green.
Senator Xiong, it looks like there's another member who wanted to say something before you went into your finals. So we'll see if she still wants to say something or if we can go vote. Senator Westland.
Thank you, Senator Champion. I was the lead on the elections part of the bill, so sorry. Thank you. I will also be short, Mr. President, so we can do the good work of voting for this bill. I do want to say that we did pass a number of really important measures that will protect voting rights in this state. There were some provisions that did not make it through the conference report, including the anti-bribery language, which was rather disappointing. But we did make some progress with some agreed-upon lobbying provisions that will help bring transparency to our elections. All in all, Mr. President, it was rough getting this over the finish line. We did it, and I also want to thank deeply our partisan and nonpartisan staff who just have worked an incredible number of hours. This is a really good bill, Mr. President, and I encourage a green vote.
Thank you, Senator Westland, and thank you for your portion. Sorry about that. Senator Pappas.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to say a few words about a pot of money that was in the state and local government bill. It was it's called the Vitality Fund. It was in a special reserve fund from 2023. And the goal of this was to really deal with some of the issues in the Capitol complex for all of us and all of our visitors. Some safety issues, some economic development issues, so that people, when they come to visit the Capitol, maybe there's a coffee shop nearby or a restaurant, especially on University and Rice Street right near us, that they feel safe, that the light rail is safe, that the Capitol Mall is safe, that just some, if you're having activities here, we have proper security. And we had $5 million. It wasn't new money. It was sitting there in the fund. And Senator Xiong fought very hard to keep that money for the purposes that it was intended. And he was able to keep the $3 million for the safety issues. And so I really, really appreciate that. But I was super disappointed that the administration came in and demanded $2 million of that special fund for both rent in lieu of rent and also for the operating adjustment for the AG's office. And I do feel like that was promised to the Capitol Mall, and so I'm very disappointed to have lost that $2 million. But Senator Xiong is still my hero.
Final comments from Senator Xiong.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll be super quick. I'd like to add that I would like to thank my CA, Michaela, my LA, Sebastian, Andrew Erickson, fiscal staff, Tom Watson, Stephanie James, and Haley Bloom. Thank you.
We will now go to Senator Abler, who wants to say something, and then we'll
Mr.
see
President,
who else wants to say something.
Kind of moving kind of fast through the questions here. I just wanted to ask easy question for Senator Weston if she'd yield. I was trying to make some sense out of the detail in this summary, but would she yield for a question, Mr. President?
Senator Westland, you've been asked to yield. Will you yield for a question? She will yield. Senator Abler.
Mr. President, that is so thoughtful of her, and I'm so grateful. So, Senator Westland, can you comment on what happened with this absentee ballot thing, with the timing and the 8 o'clock and the 5 o'clock and the 3 o'clock? Did it change what's going to happen with absentee ballots and the deadlines? Thank you.
Senator Westland, to the question, please.
Mr. President, very quickly, it will be 5 p.m.
Senator Abler, any other questions? Seeing none, the Secretary will give the bill. The Secretary will take the roll. I'm sorry. The Secretary will take the roll. Senator Bowden, for those voting pursuant to Rule 40.7.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Herr votes aye.
Senator Herr votes aye.
Senator Klein votes aye.
Senator Klein votes aye.
Senator Port votes aye.
Senator Port votes aye.
Senator McEwen votes aye.
Senator McEwen votes aye.
And Senator Wickland votes aye.
And Senator Wickland votes aye. Senator Jasinski, for those voting pursuant to Rule 40.7, I know you have two. Senator Jasinski, for those voting pursuant to Rule 40.7.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Coleman votes no.
Senator Coleman votes no.
Senator Housley votes no.
Senator Housley votes no. All senators having voted, who desires a vote? The secretary will close the roll. There being 36 ayes and 31 nays, the bill is passed as amended by the conference committee. Members remaining under motions or resolutions will revert to the third order of business. Messages from the House. The Secretary will read the messages.
Mr. President, I have the honor to announce the passage by the House of the following House files herewith transmitted. House File Number 3023, signed Patrick Duffy Murphy, Chief Clerk, House of Representatives.
Members, no action is required. The next order of business is the fourth order of business, first reading of the House bills. The Secretary will give the bill their first reading.
House File Number 3023, a bill for an act relating to unemployment insurance, adopting additional benefits for certain iron ore mining employees.
House File 3023 is referred to the Committee on Jobs and Economic Development. We are now going to the 13th order of business. Any announcements of Senate interest? Seeing none, Senator Murphy for motion.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. It's been a day. And with that, I move that the Senate do now adjourn until Tuesday, February 17th at 12 noon.
On that motion, all in favor say aye. Oh, did you want to say something, Senator Johnson?
Yes, Mr. President.
Senator Johnson.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. It has been quite a day today, And noticing that we haven't finished all the work of the state, I'm just wondering if Senator Murphy would yield for a couple of questions.
Senator Murphy, will you yield? She will yield. Senator Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. President. And Senator Murphy, if you could kind of lay out what you foresee as the next steps that we're going to need to take in order to make sure that we have the budget and the work done the Minnesotans expected us to do when they sent us here.
Senator Murphy, to that question.
Thank you, Mr. President and Leader Johnson. We had a discussion about this earlier today, so I'm happy to share it with everyone. I would expect that tomorrow we will be returning to the work of what our conference committees today, but will be working groups tomorrow in order to finish up the number of bills that need to be completed in the negotiation before we can come back here together in a special session and pass them. So I have shared with our caucus, and I bet you have shared with your caucus, the expectation that we will be back to work tomorrow. If there are conference committees that are struggling to find their way forward, we may be meeting together in the cabinet room with the 4 leaders and the administration, but hopefully everyone will be able to, in the next couple of days, work their way through to an agreement on the language and the spreadsheets that make up the balance of the budget bills that we need to pass this year. I look forward to that. It has been an important session for this Senate, and there has been a remarkable amount of work that we've done together, and I hope that we're able to model the way for the other body and demonstrate that we're able to do this work. Thank you for the good question, Leader Johnson.
Any additional questions, Senator Johnson?
Thank you, Mr. President. And I know Senator Miller and Senator Frentz didn't get their sports betting bill done, but if you were to give an over-under on Memorial Day, what would that look like?
I think that's a rhetorical question, but if not, Senator Murphy.
Thank you,
Any
Mr.
additional
President.
questions? Seeing none, Senator Murphy moves that the Senate do now adjourn until 12 noon on February 17th, 2026. On that motion, all in favor say aye. All those opposed say no. The motion prevails. The Senate is now adjourned.